This is an Empowering Writers tutorial over story endings. When writing a story ending, you need to think about how your main character has changed or grown as a result of the main event in the story. In the story, the main character has experienced something significant. They may have solved a problem or gone on an adventure, and as a result, maybe they learned a lesson or made a decision or formed a new opinion about something or have hopes for the future. Ineffective endings that you don't want to use in your story are a really abrupt ending, such as, so I went home and went to bed. It's not satisfying to the reader. We want to know what happened. It's also not good to ramble on way past the conclusion, talking about the next day and after that, way past your story is over. You want to go ahead and stop it when it's finished. And suddenly I woke up, it was just a dream is a very frustrating ending for your reader, because your readers invested all this energy in the story, wondering how the main character would solve the problem or conclude the adventure, and then the reader discovers that none of it really even happened, and that's really disappointing for your reader. So if you don't want to use those kind of endings, what do you want to do? A satisfying ending combines the following elements: a memory, feeling, decision, wish or hope, and defining action. So let's look at memory. The definition you need to put in your dictionary for memory is when the main character remembers the main event. And the question you'll ask yourself when you're trying to write a memory ending is, what do you remember most? For example, Mary thought back to the moment when she kissed the small ugly frog. She'd never forget the way the frog had turned into a prince. So Mary's remembering back to what had happened earlier in the story. If you use a feeling ending, the definition that you're going to use is when you show the main character you show what the main character felt about what happened in the story. And the question that you would ask is, how did you feel after everything happened? So how is your character going to feel once the story is over? So for Mary, she still could not believe he'd convinced her to do it, but he'd seemed so sad and lonely. So she's talking about her feelings. She feels surprised with herself, but she also felt sorry for him, and she's letting us know that. Then we look at a decision. And a decision is when the author includes a decision made by the main character as a result of the main event or story problem. So the question that you'd ask yourself here is, what would your character decide to do after everything happened? For example, and if he did come back, she decided that somehow she would become his princess. Next, we have a wish or hope. As a result of the main event, the main character is going to think ahead and make a wish or a hope for the future. For example, when everything was over, what did the character wish or hope for? What did they wish had gone differently, or what did they hope was going to happen next? For example, she hoped that he'd remember her and come back someday when she was all grown up. The last technique is defining action, and this is a more sophisticated technique, so it has its own example all on its own, but a defining action is, as a result of the main event, the main character does something that reflects a decision or feeling. And the question you ask here is, what does your character do to show how they felt or what they decided? For example, Sarah looked out the window at her new neighborhood. It still didn't feel like home, she thought. Yet there were many new places to visit and things to explore. So she took a deep breath, pushed the memories of her old home aside, and headed out the door. She knew in her heart that it was up to her to make this new place feel like home. So the underlined portion there is her defining action. When she heads out the door, that's showing us physically that she has made this decision. So the things that are going on emotionally inside, it tells us about, she's pushing the memories aside, she's deciding that it's up to her to make this new place feel like home, and we see that when she heads out the door. So you need to bring it all together. You need to combine 3 or 4 of the different elements into an ending, a satisfying ending. Mary thought back to the moment when she kissed the small ugly frog. There's a memory. She still could not believe he'd convinced her to do it, but he'd seemed so sad and lonely. There are feelings. She'd never forget the way the frog had turned into a prince. Back to a memory. She hoped that he'd remember her and come back someday when she was all grown up. So hope for the future. And if he did come back, she decided she would somehow become his princess. And there's her decision. So we've wrapped all of these things together into what is a much more satisfying ending than saying, then Mary woke up and realized it was all just a dream. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know and I'll be happy to help you.